Hey there, fellow soil enthusiasts. If you've been following along here at Grow with Soil, you know I'm all about working smarter, not harder in the garden. Today, I want to share something that completely changed my approach to composting, and honestly, I wish someone had told me about this years ago when I was out there turning my hot compost pile every 3 days like it was my second job. We've all heard the hype about hot composting. Turn it regularly, monitor the temperature, get compost in just a few weeks. Sounds great in theory, right? But here's what nobody tells you. Hot composting gives you compost, but cold composting gives you something far more valuable for your garden. Genuine, nutrient-rich humus. And the best part? You barely have to lift a finger. Before we dive into the method, let's talk about what makes humus so special, because this distinction is crucial. When most gardeners say compost, they're talking about partially decomposed organic matter that's dark, crumbly, and ready to add to the garden. It's good stuff, don't get me wrong. But humus is the end game, the final form of decomposition that transforms your soil in ways regular compost simply cannot. Humus is the stable, fully decomposed organic matter that forms after microorganisms have completely broken down all the plant and animal materials. It's a complex substance that's incredibly resistant to further decomposition, which means it sticks around in your soil for years, sometimes decades, continuously improving soil structure and feeding your plants. Think of compost as fast food for your soil, quick energy that gets used up relatively quickly. Humus is the slow-release, sustained nutrition that keeps on giving season after season. The magic happens because humus has an extraordinarily high cation exchange capacity, which is just a fancy way of saying it's really, really good at holding on to nutrients and making them available to plant roots exactly when they need them. It also acts like a sponge for water, helping sandy soils retain moisture and clay soils drain better. Honestly, humus is the closest thing to garden magic we've got. Here's where it gets interesting. Hot composting, with all its heat and rapid breakdown, actually works against humus formation. When your pile heats up to about 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, you're creating an environment where thermophilic bacteria dominate. These heat-loving microbes are incredibly efficient at breaking down materials quickly, but they're so aggressive that they consume a lot of the carbon compounds that would otherwise become stable humus. Cold composting, on the other hand, operates at ambient temperatures where mesophilic organisms, fungi, and a diverse community of decomposers work slowly and steadily. This slower process allows for more complete decomposition and the formation of those stable humus compounds we're after. The fungi, in particular, are absolute superstars here. They produce enzymes that break down tough lignin and cellulose, transforming them into humic substances that bind with clay particles and create that beautiful crumbly soil structure we all dream about. I've been using this method exclusively for the past 4 years, and the difference in my soil quality compared to my hot composting days is night and day. My tomato plants dig their roots deeper. My soil holds moisture better during dry spells, and I'm spending way less money on fertilizers because the humus is doing the heavy lifting. Let me walk you through exactly how I set up my cold composting system. And trust me, this is so straightforward, you'll wonder why you ever stressed about compost temperatures and carbon to nitrogen ratios. First, choose a spot that's convenient to access year-round. Unlike hot composting, you won't be turning this pile, so don't worry about needing space to work around it. I prefer a partially shaded area because it keeps moisture levels more consistent. But honestly, this method is forgiving. You can use a simple wire bin, wooden pallets, a purchased compost bin, or just make a pile directly on the ground. The key is making sure it's in contact with the soil, so all those beneficial organisms can migrate up into your pile. Start by laying down a base layer of coarse materials like small twigs or wood chips. This creates air pockets at the bottom and helps with drainage. Then, simply add your organic materials as they become available. Kitchen scraps, garden waste, leaves, grass clippings, shredded paper, cardboard. It all goes in. I keep a small bucket by my back door for kitchen scraps, and empty it every couple of days. Here's what's liberating about cold composting. You don't need to obsess over layering or ratios. Just add materials as you have them. The diverse microbial community will figure it out over time. That said, I do try to occasionally add a layer of leaves or shredded paper over kitchen scraps to discourage any curious critters and keep things looking tidy. Once your pile is established, your main job is to leave it alone. I know that sounds too simple, but this is where cold composting really shines. You're not turning it, you're not monitoring temperatures, you're not stressing about whether your ratios are perfect. You're letting nature do what it does best. The only thing you need to occasionally monitor is moisture. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, damp but not soggy. During particularly dry periods, I'll give mine a good watering with the hose. In rainy seasons, if it seems too wet, I might toss on some dry leaves or shredded cardboard to absorb excess moisture. But honestly, most of the time, rainfall takes care of this for me. As you continue adding materials to the top, the bottom layers are slowly transforming. After about 6 months, you'll notice the materials at the bottom starting to look unrecognizable. After a year, you've got beautiful, dark, crumbly compost. But here's where patience pays off. If you can leave that bottom layer undisturbed for 18 to 24 months, you're getting true humus-rich material that will transform your garden soil. When it's time to harvest, you're taking from the bottom while continuing to add to the top. I use a simple front access compost bin that makes this easy, but even with a basic pile, you can carefully dig from the base. What you'll find is material so dark and rich it looks almost black, with an earthy smell that tells you immediately this is quality stuff. I harvest once or twice a year, depending on how much material I'm adding and what my garden needs. The beauty of this system is that it's continuous. Unlike hot composting where you build a batch, wait for it to finish, then start over, cold composting is always in progress. You're always adding to the top, and always able to harvest from the bottom once the materials there have fully matured. When I harvest, I screen my humus through half-inch hardware cloth to catch any larger pieces that need more time. These go right back on top of the pile to continue breaking down. What passes through the screen is pure garden gold, ready to work miracles in your beds. Now that you've got this incredible humus-rich material, let's talk about how to use it most effectively. While you can certainly mix it into your garden beds like regular compost, I've found that using it more strategically gives you even better results. My favorite method is to apply a 1 to 2 inch layer as a top dressing around established plants and work it gently into the top few inches of soil. This puts those humic substances right where feeder roots can access them. For new beds, I mix it into the top 6 to 8 inches of soil, creating an environment where plant roots absolutely thrive. I also make what I call humus tea for container plants and seedlings. I put a shovel full of finished humus in a 5-gallon bucket, fill it with water, let it sit for 24 hours, then use that water to feed my plants. It's like giving them a liquid multivitamin packed with beneficial microbes and nutrients. The impact on soil structure is where humus really proves its worth. In my clay-heavy native soil, incorporating humus has improved drainage dramatically. In the raised beds where I added more sand initially, the humus helps retain moisture and nutrients that would otherwise leach away quickly. It's the ultimate soil amendment, because it addresses problems from both ends of the spectrum. What I love most about this cold composting method is that it aligns perfectly with the philosophy of building soil health for the long term. We're not just feeding plants for this season. We're creating an environment where soil life flourishes and sustains itself. Every time you add humus to your garden, you're increasing the soil's capacity to support healthier plants with less intervention from you. I've noticed my pest and disease issues have decreased significantly since I started focusing on humus production. Healthier soil grows healthier plants, and healthy plants are naturally more resistant to stress, pests, and diseases. It's all connected, and humus is at the foundation of this system. The other bonus? This method is, honestly, incredibly sustainable. You're diverting waste from landfills, reducing the need for purchased inputs, and working with natural cycles rather than trying to speed them up artificially. It just feels good knowing that my kitchen scraps and yard waste are transforming into something that makes my garden more productive and resilient year after year. If you're just starting with cold composting, be patient with yourself in the process. Your first harvest might be a year away, but I promise it's totally worth the wait. Start your pile today, keep adding to it consistently, and this time next year, you'll be digging into the most beautiful, rich humus you've ever seen. Remember, gardening is all about working with nature, not against it. Cold composting for humus production is the perfect example of letting natural processes do the heavy work, while we simply provide the ingredients and get out of the way. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to Grow with Soil for more practical, in-depth gardening wisdom that actually works in real gardens. Share this with your gardening friends who are tired of babysitting their hot compost piles, and let's build better soil together, one cold compost pile at a time. Happy composting, friends!